KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what I told myself when I did this. You know, what are the things that it boils down to with people's ability to follow a plan that works fast? And no calorie counting. I'm not so concerned about that. I think that most people might not be eating enough. It's an issue of not eating the right things in a lot of cases. And they can do it anywhere. You can still eat at restaurants. There's not a lot of food prep, things like that. And above that, habits do not change overnight. It takes some time for people to get into the right habits. Focus on food choice, quality, combinations, and timing. I mean, Dr. Serrano said this during many presentations. What's the effect in the body, the difference between 100 calories from broccoli versus 100 calories from a protein source? And, you know, there are two different things. Or what's the difference if you're eating a 100-calorie Twinkie? Oh, it's low calorie. Or if I'm eating some lean protein sources. The effect on the body is completely different. So I like to get people out of the calorie counting game because they end up making rationalizations to do things they shouldn't do. Audit. If you won't send me a few days of your diet, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's just it. I mean, I've been doing this a while. You know, this ain't my first rodeo. You don't have time to give me a few sample days of what you've been eating, you're hiding something. Fine. But don't come crying to me when you say I'm not getting the results that I want. You know, well, what have you been doing? I've been eating what you said. If I hear that again, I think I'm going to go nuts. Here's the thing. If I gave you something that gave you a variety of different food choices to eat at certain meals, there are like 10 different protein choices there. So what did I say? Which one? All of them? You know, so that's something you don't need every day. You don't need every minute detail. But here's another good one. So you send me 3 days that are perfect. The other 4 days of the week were horrible. Well, isn't that kind of a loaded situation there? I mean, you know, so, you know, you got to be honest with yourself and also with the client and trainer interaction. You've got to hold yourself to a high level of accountability as well. So I never make assumptions that people are doing things right. I'm always looking for what did I not explain well or what are they not doing well that I can help them improve. And I think people should have the same attitude in that audit themselves. You always find interesting things and it'll help you. 14 days low carb or zero carb. That doesn't include green vegetables. You can have an unlimited amount of green vegetables. And I'm trying to create a metabolic shift to fat burning. This is also a situation where a lot of hormones are going to change. And this is something Dr. Serrano will address this afternoon as a part of his talk about interval nutrition, which is great stuff. We're going to try and cleanse the fat cells. No trans fats, no saturated fats that are not from organic sources. Okay? Because Dr. Serrano mentioned this morning, you know, your regular beef gets injected a lot of estrogen. It's fed grain. It's a different situation than organic meat. And I've got a lot of sources for that if somebody wants to contact me. There's US Wellness. I think it's grasslandbeef.com. Excellent stuff. High quality. They know what they're doing. And if you invest in that, it will pay off. High dietary fiber intake from green vegetables. And we're going to amino load with 100% MR and muscle synthesis for several reasons, but it serves as a very powerful mental and physical energy source alternative during low-carb plans. Sometimes Dr. Serrano doesn't give himself enough credit. He invented some things. He figured some things out with those things that work better than everything else. Now, of course, I have a vested interest in that. But, you know, how it affects the brain, how it affects fat burning and recovery, having to do with those ratios that he developed with real people and patient trials is unmatched by anybody. And I see it all the time. You know, the people that use it, they say, you know, it works. For years, I battled people about eating breakfast. You got to eat breakfast. You know, if you don't, you know, you got all these problems, this and that. And, you know, as Dr. Serrano told me a while ago, you don't have to eat breakfast. Just have them use the MR and the muscle synthesis. It's a complete protein source. They're not hungry. Let them do that. So, okay. So by doing that, I eliminated, you know, some food intake. Now, let's use common sense. If you eat less, you're going to lose some body fat. Now, there's a little more complicated than that. But I use the amino loading for breakfast, and people feel surprisingly good after that. They're not real hungry. A lot of people don't have an appetite in the morning, especially if you're taking on a client or you're a person that's not used to eating breakfast. That's a hard habit to establish, so just do that instead. We're going to incorporate some macronutrient cycling with our post-workout meals. And macronutrient cycling, not my invention, you know, Dr. Serrano can take credit for that, is probably one of the more groundbreaking discoveries I think there's been the last 20, 30 years. You know, everybody talks about, well, you got to change your training program every 4 to 6 weeks. But I don't think anybody's really going to dispute that. But how often are you changing your diet? Most people never. So by manipulating the amounts of dietary fat, protein, and carbohydrate, I can create certain situations that I want that serve my goals well. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. But one way to do it is we're going with a low-carb plan, but we're going to use some carbohydrate following training, and that does a lot of beneficial things for us hormonally and metabolically as well, and I'll have some other examples later on there. Eat more food on training days when you have more activity. Makes sense for a lot of reasons. Consistency of execution of a diet is crucial. Again, you know, if I look at most people and really take an audit, they're getting there maybe 60, 70% of the time. If you're above 90, you're going to see really fast results, really fast. Variety of foods to avoid sensitivities. You know, if you're eating the same 10, 15 foods all your life, you're going to develop some problems. You're going to have fatigue, you're going to have, you know, rashes, you're going to have difficulty losing body fat, stomach discomfort. I can't tell you how many people who have come my way and I've just eliminated things they've been eating like chicken or eggs, they've been eating every day for years, eliminate them, and use other protein sources and their energy levels improve dramatically. They're like, what did you do? It's like, well, I just took away stuff that was aggravating your system. Not that difficult. But a food allergy test is a good idea to do if it's a blood test. Dr. Serrano could tell you, I think he likes Immunolabs and a couple others. I don't think the skin tests produce any accurate info based on what I've seen when I compare the two. One well-structured cheat meal per week, or you can call it reward meal, whatever. There's some different terminology for that. So a sample day. We're going to have 2 to 3 scoops of 100% MR and muscle synthesis mixed with water right when we get up, coffee or green tea. Mid-morning, if we're hungry, we're going to have, you know, a 4th cup of nuts. That's something you got to measure specifically, otherwise that can get out of hand pretty quickly. We're going to avoid food allergies and sensitivities. Something, you know, and it takes discipline. If you've been eating it every day, got to get rid of it. You know, it's got to be rotated out of the diet for a while. Great for people on the run. I've yet to meet anybody that tells me, I get up in the morning, I have nothing to do. I mean, people got to get to work, they got to run their kids' places. So it's definitely a quick way for them to do something a lot better than eating a donut, grabbing a waffle, or other things that people say, oh, I didn't have time to eat, so I ate cereal. Eat nothing. We'll solve that problem. Lunch, you know, 6 to 10 ounces of fish, seafood, turkey, chicken, grass-fed beef, buffalo, whatever you've not been eating. Look for some other protein sources. Like I said, grassland beef's a great source for these things. Vegetables, tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, cup of berries, and 3 to 6 alpha omega M3, very good for your essential fats. Lunch out example. This is a problem a lot of people have. They go out to eat lunch with colleagues. You go into fast food places, they're hungry and they're surrounded by a lot of bad food choices. Disaster waiting to happen. So here's an example, Chipotle. You can get a burrito bowl with those items in there, make a pretty good meal out of it. But I would avoid cheese, sour cream, and their tortilla chips, you know. No whole wheat or whole grain bullshit. You know, it's just amazing to me how I guess these food companies have gotten people to believe that a piece of white bread dyed brown is just fine. It still has enriched flour. The tortillas and all this stuff, I mean, people, you know, well, it's whole grain. Okay, I'm not making the argument that that's good or bad, but if you're trying to lose fat, no! I don't want to hear about a tortilla, or I don't want to hear about, well, it's this, or this guy recommends it, you know. You have to look at the total carbohydrate content, and of course the sources are important, but this is an area where a lot of people go wrong. Whole wheat or whole grain, it's fine. That's not the case as it relates to body fat loss. Mid-afternoon, we're using the MR and the muscle synthesis between meals. Does a great job of improving energy and fat burning. We'll use some nuts again, very convenient on the run. I tell clients, keep some in your pocket. You know, there's little bags that Trader Joe's sells or any of those health food stores that you can keep. By the time, for training for most people, usually late afternoon or after work is good. So, you know, we use amino loading pre-workout and post, and protein powder too little, too late. It's a situation where you got a few things going on. 95% of the protein powders out there are dairy-based. I don't know what percentage of people have allergies to them, but over time they will build one because they're very highly concentrated. So when I take people off protein shakes, their amount of bloating decreases dramatically. I also don't believe they do shit. You know, I think that when you look at the situation, you're training, you're pumping a lot of blood in your muscles. And post-workout, if you drink a protein shake, that's going to activate digestion, draw blood away from the muscles and into the stomach, and then I've lost a large part of my highway. So what the hell is that worth? And it's got to go through a lot of processes before it's going to deliver amino acids to the muscles, and that was the whole point, to where the MR and the muscle synthesis bypass the digestive barriers altogether. They don't need to be digested. They get in the blood flow, get to the muscles, and start doing the job of optimizing the hormonal situation, providing those ratios of raw materials that are crucial.